Welcome to Viva the Crypto, and today we are going to be reviewing the ICO with Crypto20. Now, the reason why I'm doing this review, and I must be completely honest, was in my investors group I was getting really fed up with everyone talking about Crypto20. Now, there was another project that I was invested in and I thought, I'm just going to review it. I'm going to show everyone how rubbish it is, and just show what else is out there in the market, and educate people on what they should be concerned about Crypto20. And through that process, I actually found that I really like Crypto20. So, been a bit of an investment journey for me, really. But obviously, it goes without saying that this is not financial advice today, but what I wanted to do was go through a few things really based on my experiences being in the financial services for the last 12 years. I look at ICOs and coins very differently than a lot of people, but there are a lot of key selling points to this particular coin that I really like. And having a look at some of the ICO reviews out there, I think there was quite a few reviews that miss some key details. So what I want to do is just go through the website quickly today, go through the white paper, and give you a little bit of information. And if you like it, please give us a thumbs up, and please subscribe. We're going to have more ICO reviews coming out in the near future. And again, any feedback, anything that you think I've said is wrong, I'm always grateful for any feedback as well. So strap in and let's go through it. So first impressions, really impressed with the website. It looks really good. I love the fact that it's got a really good clock there, but it's giving you an indication of the net asset value, which we'll go through. Raised 25 million. I know a recent project with Hedge Token raised about 3, but that was just purely for the utility token on the platform. These, the key thing that makes this so great is that I think this is one of the first projects that I've seen, big projects where you can invest in the top 20 cryptos today. So showing the split of the current fund portfolio, looking really good, and just gives you a bit of oversight about what they're looking to do. So if you're not aware about how this works, crypto trades 24/7. It's quite hard to diversify efficiently. There's a lot of cost involved, jumping between different exchanges all across the world to get access to certain coins. By having this one portfolio, you're saving yourself all of those trades and all that rebalancing. Now, in the stocks and share world, there is something called efficient market theory. What that basically means is that all the information is freely available, and most best way to actually invest is to track what everyone else is doing. So the whole purpose of the Crypto20 fund is to do that. It's just to track the top 20 coins, and as some fall out of favor and new ones come up, you are going to be invested in those coins. It's very beneficial with crypto because of the points I made earlier about having different exchanges and costs. By having those costs spread between you and other investors, that saves you money, and by having someone looking after it, it saves you time and effort. Let's be honest, with the crypto world, it's not a 9 to 5, it is 24/7. So you get to have a life, you get to save money, and you're investing with everyone else. So it's really big selling points, really. As far as the whole idea of tracking funds, my view has been that they're quite useful for being a core of your actual investment. So you have the majority of your funds in tracker investments, and then those coins that might be outside the top 20, some other projects, you can put smaller amounts, what we call satellite investments. So this gives you a really good opportunity to put the bulk of your investment into tracker. You might use other trackers, other companies provide trackers as well, but I think this is a great idea, and I think that the way they've done it is very good as well. Good roadmap. Coins are looking to the ICO is looking to finish in the next few days, looking to hit exchanges in January. It's really good. Good team as well, which we'll go through a little bit later, and if good partner listings as well, which again we'll go through in the white paper. Now, I understand why a lot of people don't go through the white paper, because it is particularly boring, but there's a lot of useful information. But also you can, through reading the white paper, establish if there's any holes, and there were a couple which weren't groundbreaking, but I think it's worth going through them. Now, key thing is the Crypto20 token gives you access to the top 20 cryptos. Now, excuse me, the key thing really to take away from it is there is a cap on the maximum exposure any one coin can hold. So the cap is actually 10%, which you can see just here. Now, what will happen is, as they review the fund on a weekly basis, they will look to start selling coins. So where you got Bitcoin, currently about 20% of the fund, they'll sell half the Bitcoin and then spread that across the other coins as the allocation sees fit. The fund is based in Cayman, which is quite useful. A lot of companies base themselves offshore, not purely for tax reasons, but also regulation. Yeah, a lot of these offshore jurisdictions are a lot more friendly to setting up companies. Yeah, it's all straightforward. The other big selling point of this particular fund is that it's got an ongoing cost of 0.5% per annum. Now, with specialist funds in the stocks and share world, they can be as high as 3%. I know that Crypto20 highlight this in other crypto tracker funds, so I think 0.5% is quite fair. One of the questions I did ask of the team were how this was going to be taken, because if you were to take it annually, then that could have a detrimental impact on the actual fund. But they have actually clarified that they're actually going to look to take that 0.5% every month, the rebalancing period, which is perfect. That means that 0.5 is not really going to affect the fund. It may seem quite small, but you can be talking quite a bit of money. It's saying that it doesn't require, because it's an index fund, there's no actual management, so it's all automated. So come the end of the week, they'll get told what they need to do and how the funds have moved based on their rule book. And the other interesting thing is they have a mechanism to stop the coin value dropping below the value of the underlying assets. You have something called a net asset value, which is, if you've got a coin that's worth, say, 98 cents, but the actual assets that it's entitled to are worth 110, and it's trading under its NAV. So they actually have a cash out facility so that they can actually avoid that, which I think is a really good selling point for investors as well. Maybe they could have made a bit more noise about that, because that is really powerful. It's a closed-ended fund, so that means there's a limited number of coins available. That, I can understand why they've done that, because there's a lot of administration from having an open-ended mutual fund. Because if you've got money coming in and out, it can be very busy, and they have to administer that. By having a closed-ended fund, it keeps the costs lower, and they can also, release other exchanges. If it was really popular and they wanted to do it again, they could have a version 2 out, or just call it something slightly different, which I believe they're actually looking to release some other tracker investments in the future. Just some information about the smart contract. I think that's, we'll come back to it. Does have some really good information in relation to how they came up with their actual rule book. I'm not going to go through that, but it's a really good read if you're particularly interested in that. And it kind of focuses on how they came up with a 10% cap, or 10% ceiling per coin, which is quite interesting. And for those who are wondering how they actually administer, so what they're going to do is, on a rebalancing event, every for their 0.5% per year, what they're going to do is every Sunday they're going to meet up and they're going to discuss what will they need to do, how they're going to rebalance the fund. Now, the actual coins are actually going to be held on 12 Ledger Nano S's. Now, there are going to be some coins that don't go into Ledger, so they're going to have to use other facilities such as USB drives. They're going to maybe possibly have to use laptops and put those into storage, because, you know, for instance, Lisk is a good example of a coin that you need a web wallet for. So that will sit, and what they're going to do is they're actually going to have safety deposit boxes, and not only will they, so you've got the security on the Ledger Nano S's and the USB sticks, but they're actually then going to store those in secure boxes. So there are going to be at least 2 people required to go and get those tokens, get access to those wallets. So they'll meet up on a Sunday, then they'll grow. Now this is quite an interesting thing that I haven't thought about really, is that, you know, safety deposit boxes are going to be available. You typically get hold of those on a weekday. So if they have the meeting on a Sunday, then typically they won't get the access to those coins until the Monday. So there might be some form of tracking error, and tracking error is the difference, you know, how closely it will actually track the index. So it's quite an interesting point. But ultimately, with any specialized investments, you're always going to have some form of tracking error. I think the other thing I like about it is the API service. So what they'll have is they'll have an automated system that all they'll do is they'll plug the wallets in, and it will tell them we need so many coins from here. It will sell, go out into the market, get the cheapest price possible. They're not going to have to sit there and manually send coins to certain locations. It's all going to be done by this API service, which is great, keeps costs low. The other thing that's quite useful as well is the fact that the Crypto20 team are actually going to be looking to invest a lot of time marketing. And part of the budget that they're taking away from the ICO is going to be for marketing. For their benefit, it's going to help them with the other exchanges, that the other indexes that they release in the future. But what it does is, by advertising for it and keeping the hype going, it means there's going to be buyers for your token. So if you want to sell on an exchange, you'll have the facility to do that. So I think it's all good. It's in their benefit. They're going to look at releasing further projects in the future, and I think it's you know, really good. Oh yeah, which is going to be 1.5% of the amounts raised. I'll come on to that in a little bit because I think that's quite important. I think other good things really are that they're going to have really good systems. They're going to provide a balance sheet. You're going to have income statements, a list of portfolio amounts and values, a statement of the salaries. It seems to me that they're being really transparent, which I just love. I think it's brilliant. Shows that it's not about troughing. They're not here just to take loads of cash off us investors. Now, this point here, I think, on page 11, anomalies and responses, I think is one of the biggest selling points of this particular fund. Now, I'll let you into a bit of information about a particular product that I have. Now, I have a Bitcoin tracker in my pension. In the UK, I'm able to buy a CTI, a certificated contract that gives me a percentage, or gives me, if I buy £10,000 worth of this particular certificate, it will give me £10,000 worth of Bitcoin. Now, one of the drawbacks of that is, because it's a certificate, the particular company that runs it holds the Bitcoin in Jersey. If there's a fork, what will happen is they'll hold the coins, and whichever one is dominant, whichever one wins, gets held, and the one that loses gets sold. Now, the actual company that hold the coins for me actually keep that fork. So Bitcoin Gold, they kept the Bitcoin Gold and they sold it. So it left me in the position to get the maximum value. I actually had to sell before the fork and then buy back in. Now, with trade costs being you know, £30 per trade either side, it gets quite expensive, and if you don't do it right, you can actually lose money. Now, what Crypto20 are going to do is, any funds that are forked that don't sit within the top 20, so Bitcoin Cash would not be that case, because that when that forked, Bitcoin Cash stayed in the top 20, so that would mean that would be retained. But for Bitcoin Gold, that falls out. They would sell the Bitcoin Gold, and then on the weekly review, and then use those proceeds to buy into the fund with the relevant split. I think that is absolutely fantastic, because I haven't seen any other company that is actually allowing investors on these type of tracker funds to actually retain the fork coins for your benefit. And I think that is brilliant. I think they should really shout about that, because I think that's a massive selling point. And I think it's great for the fund. So that's pretty much it. I think the only other thing that's really interesting is obviously the actual split. Now, I had some questions about this because there has been a bit of debate. Now, what's going to happen is that when you invest, 87% of the coins issued are going to go to ICO participants. That means the remaining funds are, 7.5% are going to the team, some to the advisory team, some retained for marketing and investor relations, legal, security. But as I've already mentioned earlier, there is some funds that are going to be retained. So of the, I've just lost it, 98% of the funds are actually going to be invested. So then 2% is going to be retained for marketing and so on. So if we look here, to give you an example, if I invested $10,000, 98% is going to be invested, so we've got to take 2% off. So that means 9,800. But of that, I don't receive 100% allocation of my coins, because some of the team are taking about 13% for these relevant costs. So you can just work it out and say, so just as a rough estimate, so times 0.87. So my £10,000 investment, I'm actually going to, on day one, have about $8,500 because of the allocation. Now, some people I've seen on Reddit have argued this, and it was a question that I asked, and it is actually correct. I saw this post here on Reddit, and it was saying here, thanks for the response. I think again it's just confusing to call it an index funds, but saying and any token by the end of the day will only guarantee 85% of my investment. I would love to see the premium, but not fully convinced it will always be 15% premium just if I manage the investment manually. And they basically confirm it. They basically say that maintaining a portfolio of 20 different coins manually is incredibly difficult and time consuming undertaking. Yeah, they make a good point about having to rebalance. So it's not argued. There is that point to consider. Now, initially, that was one of the reasons why I didn't really like this, but it has not. I don't think it's that big a deal now, because cryptocurrencies have been rising. Those who invested quite early got a discount, so they paid. The pre-sale was 95 cents. Those who invested in the first 48 hours got in at $1, and then the ones who are investing near the end are getting like $1.10. Now, ultimately, what's going to happen is, regardless of when you invest, all the growth, because what they're doing is they're investing all the money now, all that growth that they've had over the last 2-3 weeks is going to be shared between everyone, because ultimately you're buying at $1.10, you're buying the coins, and all the fund capital is being divided equally between the coin holders. So although there is a bit of a, there is a premium to buying into the fund, there is actually a benefit because of the timing, because of all those people who've invested early. All that growth is going to be shared within the fund. I think that investing now, near the end, before the end of the ICO, is actually not too bad. I also think with the fact that all the forks are going to be retained within the fund, I think, especially with Bitcoin and the amount of forks that it goes through as well, I think that it's a massive selling point to the fund. I'm less concerned with that premium than I was initially. So I think it's important to be aware of, but I don't believe it has that big of an impact now. I think the other points I really raised, I was quite impressed really with the team. I spoke to Daniel really on the Discord account. Had a few questions about the vesting dates, which were confirmed that the funds are being invested continually. Other key was really about the advisor. I asked about the advisors and who actually gave advice, and I think from what the answers that I've got back, it is the index has been built internally, and we've gone through the white paper and it shows how they came to it. So I don't know if it's a bit irrelevant, but we know how it works. It would be nice to actually see the rule book in a bit more detail. That would be a bit quite interesting, because although there is a cap, it doesn't tell you what sort of things that they'll be doing if there's sudden shifts. But it depends on you. If you just want to leave it to them and forget about it, then that's fine. But I'd like to see the rule book in a bit more detail. I do like the fact that the fees taken monthly. It's a small point. I think it's really good. The other key thing I really wanted to go through, and this is another thing that I really do love about Crypto20, is the portal. Now this I think is brilliant. It gives you live details about how the actual fund's building. Obviously they're over 10% on Bitcoin, which will be rebalanced, but it shows how the net asset value is changing, how the fund holdings are sitting at the present moment of time. I think that's brilliant. I think that's really professional, really well put together, and I think with everything that I have actually seen, I think it looks brilliant. Yeah, very impressed with that. I think lastly, the things just to really discuss. The team are pretty much out of South Africa. Daniel is leading the team. One of the key things I like to look at is the actual person in charge, the person who's looking after the blockchain. It's always always nice to see some decent advisors on board. Yeah, I think it looks like that this team haven't come up with a similar project previously. It doesn't particularly worry me. I don't think it's really that important that they've got someone with a few people with really good IT backgrounds. I think Matthew's in charge of the blockchain. To be honest with you, there isn't actually going to be much blockchain development required because this isn't a platform. It is literally a closed-ended investment. So I'm quite happy. I think there's no warning signs there for me. They've also got some really good advisors as well. So if you go through and look at the team, John's very well known within the crypto world. And I'm sure I don't know the other advisors very well, but I think that's a really good team. I think all in all, I've come from a position where I was initially starting this review, trying to educate people on why they shouldn't invest, and now I'm in a point where I'm probably going to be investing some money for myself, and I'm actually looking at maybe putting some money in for my kids as well. So yeah, well impressed. I think ultimately, again, this isn't financial advice. Do your own research. But do take a look. I think it's well worth looking into for those who don't have the time, who have lives, can't spend every minute looking at crypto. But yeah, do enjoy, and all the best. So thank you for listening today. If you have enjoyed today's review, please hit the like button. It means the world. And please feel free to subscribe as well, so there'll be some more crypto reviews coming as well. And again, please do give your feedback, is all welcome. So thank you very much and good luck.